Hey guys, it's me Daniela and I'm back with another video. In the last video I shared with you how I draped a evening gown, but in this video I am going to show you how to grade it up to your size or customize sizes. A disclaimer, there is a technical way of grading pattern, but for me that technical way is a little bit confusing and I just couldn't understand it, so I found a way that works for me and I'm going to share that with you. So first we're going to take our drape dress off the mannequin and we're going to lay it down flat. Right here, as you can see, I'm measuring the bust, the waist, and then from the natural waist, which is the smallest part of the dress, I'm going to come down 9 inches so I can get the hip measurement. So you want to make sure that you measure from the side seam to the center front. Do not go beyond that because that's just excess. And here I put the actual measurements of that bodice. So here you can see that the bust is 34 inches, the waist is 28, the hip is 35, and I measured myself and you can see my bust is 34, 27, and 40 hip. Now you need to go ahead and find the difference between these measurements. So as you can see, my bust is the same size as the dress form, so I'm not going to do anything there, but I have to go ahead and find a difference between the other two measurements, which is the waist and the hip. So my waist, you can see that is 1 inch smaller, and the hip is about my hips is about 5 inches bigger than the actual dress form size. For example, for the hip, I'm going to split that 4 ways, so it's going to be 1 inch and a quarter, and then my waist is going to be 1/4 of an inch. And then the bust, since my bust is the same size as the dress form, I'm not going to go ahead and add anything there, but if you had a size that was bigger or smaller, you would do the same thing as the other two measurements. So once you have that done and settled, so then you want to take your draped dress and you want to just separate it and get it ready and prepped up so you can use it for pattern. And here I'm going to iron everything out because I want everything to be nice and neat, nothing wavy, nothing puckering. So here on my pattern paper on the edge, I drew it my 1 inch, and that's going to be a center front. Now if you don't have a pattern paper like mine with the indications, you can use an L ruler to help you create 1 inch mark or a straight line to follow the edge of your paper. Like you can use a plain brown paper or whatever paper you have at home. I'm going to copy the first part of my bodice, which is the center front, but I'm going to start from the knee marking and I'm going to take it all the way to the top. I'm going to copy the neckline and so on and so forth. Anything below the knee, I decided that I wanted to extend my hemline because I wanted a more dramatic hem finish. So I extended my hem from the center front 17 inches. So I'm going to use the curve ruler to recurve the hemline, readjust it at the side seam as you can see here with my curve ruler and straight ruler, and I'm just going to go ahead and blend that into the side seam starting from the knee. Use these tools to help blend everything into the new side seam marks. This will create a more wider hemline for that portion of the pattern. So here I'm going to knead up the princess seam just to get it more straighter. At the bottom of the hem here, I'm just making it 4 inch longer. Now I'm going to go back and draw in my 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to cut it out. And then also, since this is the center front, I wanted to cut it on the fold. So I indicate that it was the fold. And I'm going to remove the 1 inch mark line. Now we are on to princess panel. Copy the whole entire panel from the top to bottom. At the bottom also, I wanted to make sure that it is the width of how I want it, and it's 17 inches the way I wanted it. So I'm going to just adjust the bottom hemline just to make it more smoother and nicer, and then I'm going to add additional 4 inch at the hemline just to extend it. Now it's time to bring back our measurements that we took and adjusted. And here's the trick. So we're going to be working with the side seam only on the princess panel. So here I'm going to go ahead and start distributing the measurements onto the side. Start from the natural waist and come back down to 9 inches. That's your hip mark. We're going to come out from that hip mark with the new measurements that we had. So my hip was 1 1/4 that I need to add. So I'm going to add that to the side seam. And then at the natural waist, I'm going to come in about 1/4 inch from that original mark. And then with my tools, I'm going to blend in and recreate a whole new side seam with the new measurements. As you can see, I'm using my curve ruler to reshape it and adjust it to blend it in. And since I didn't have any bust measurements, I'm leaving that part alone, and I'm just going to blend that right back into the seam again, from the waist to the hip, from the hip back into the knee marking. So it will look just like this with the new adjustment. Once that's complete, you want to go ahead and clean everything up. Take away the old side seam marking and use the new one. So I already drew in my 1/2 inch seam allowance, and the patterns is adjusted. So you want to repeat the same process all over again for the side back panel. So I'm going to do the same thing once again. I'm going to extend the hip mark outwards to 1 1/4. Then I'm going to come in 1/4 inch at the waist. So I'm going to take my curve ruler and blend it in, and then I'm going to reshape the side seam once again. I went ahead and placed back my bodice onto the paper so that way I can measure the hemline. Again, mine was 17, and you can go as wide as you want and as long as you want as well. You can see that I extended it out and redrew my side seam and blended it into the new hemline. And once you complete, again, just drawing your 1/2 inch seam allowance, and it will look just like this. Lastly, this is the center back of the bodice, and I want that to have a fishtail extension so I can have a nice long fishtail. I made the hemline 17 inches wide, and then I readjust the side seam from the knee all the way down to the hem. And now drew in my center back line, which is a 1/2 inch. And then once that's complete, I went ahead and drew in my 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then after you're done that, this is your new patterns. Test on a test fabric. So I went ahead and cut it out. And you want to go ahead and make sure you match up the markings with your panels together. And then you want to go ahead and try it on to fit it. So as you can see, everything is put together. I'm basically pinning myself. If you have someone to help you, it can be a little bit easier, but if you don't, you're gonna have to use yourself. And you would do this to your clients or whoever you are working with. You want to go ahead and shape it onto their body. As you can see, the side seam is a little bit big on me, so I'm going to go ahead and reshape that by pinning it onto my body and shaping it. You want to make sure that you pick one side of your pattern. You don't want to use both sides because you want it to be identical when you cut it out on the actual real fabric. So I'm working on one side. I picked the best side I liked, and then I'm going to continue to work on it and reshape the side of my hip. As you can see, there's a little bit of room there. So I don't want my dress to be super tight because I don't want it to show any of my flaws. And if someone has a bit of tummy, you don't want it to be like really tight. You want to just go ahead and just lightly pull and just start shaping around your hip. You can go down to as your knee to get it as more shapely and tight fitted if you want. Here in the back, I noticed that I wanted my booty to be more prominent, so I went ahead and started adjusting the back seam by my butt part just to get the shape of how I want it to be, and I want it to be more shapely. So you can see the difference between the original and what it looks now. I'm going to turn around and show you. So this is more of a fitted back, and that other side, which I'd never touched, is a little bit more looser. Once that you see that everything is nice the way you like it, is nicely fitted, and you're satisfied, you want to take off your dress, and then you want to lay it flat and adjust any puckers if necessary, so that way you can go ahead and start to draw in the new shape. I started moving pins around just a little bit just to make sure that area is flat. So here I am taking my curve ruler and redrawing the new shape, blended into the previous waistline. And then after that, I'm going to take my straight ruler and draw in the new seam allowance. Now, once you've done all that, you can now take this and adjust it onto your paper pattern with the new corrections, and then you can go out and cut it out into the fabric that you're going to be using, the actual fabric. So this is how to do custom sizes for your body or for your client. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I did love the comments that you left in the previous video of the draping tutorial, so I will be applying some of the ideas that I received onto the next video, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.